Now this is kind of an early preview of a video that you'll see in sometime the first few weeks of January. I sometimes lose track if I don't have my calendar in front of me. But as you know, I love painting Star Wars Legion stuff, vehicles and figures. Although I've not done a lot of just figures. In fact, I don't know that I've ever done just a figure for Star Wars Legion, so this may be the first. But I'm going to be painting Bossk. We first saw him in Empire Strikes Back, and if you've watched any of the Star Wars animated series stuff, I always want to call them cartoons, and people say they're not cartoons; they're an animated series, and I'm like, I'm an old guy who plays with toys. They're cartoons. But anyway, if you saw any of I think he was in Clone Wars. I know he was in Rebels. Seems like I remember he was in the Bad Batch. But you've seen Bossk. He's of a race called the Trandoshans, which are lizard-looking things. And they're known for bounty hunters, very fierce, very strong warriors, and wear stylish yellow suits, which apparently was an RAF flight suit, like a high-altitude flight suit, just pretty much out of the box. That's just what it was. It wasn't. They didn't have to add a lot to it. This is just how it looked. But that's what the original actor wore in Empire Strikes Back. Now, my love of Star Wars miniatures is honest and goes back many, many, many years. This would have dated back to 1980 when Empire Strikes Back came out. I was one of those kids that had all of the Star Wars figures. I still have probably about 20 of them in a box that I keep under my bed, and Bossk was one of them. You can see he's been through it. In fact, when he was in my box, his head had popped off, and I had to glue that back on. But this is not something that while painting minis is not something that I'm have been doing for a long time. Collecting Star Wars miniatures, and I would count this as a miniature. Pre-painted, toy-like miniature, but it's still a miniature. I have been having these for quite a long time. So when it came around to finding this mini to paint, I was quite excited about it because now Bossk is not one of my favorite characters. He's probably not a character if it weren't for painting. He's probably not even a character that I would think about that often. He's a bad guy. He's a villain, and the way they portray him in the animated series, he talks with this kind of, kind of always doing this lizard thing. It just sounds weird. It always kind of irritated me. But when I saw the sculpt and the figure, I thought, you know what? 10-year-old John, or in this case, 13-year-old John, because this came out in 1980, so it would have been 13-year-old John. But 13-year-old John still played with Star Wars toys. I thought I would have really liked the idea of painting this figure. And it's got just such nice textures and sculpting and just various details to paint on him. And the skin looks really cool, and it's all large enough that it shouldn't be too difficult to paint, he says now, realizing that probably he might curse his ability to paint this later, but it looks like it's not going to be too bad to paint, and it's just, I'm just really excited about it. In fact, this is kind of like a dry run at a video that I'm planning to do that, again, you will see in a few weeks, where I just kind of talk more in detail about my love of toy soldiers in general. You may remember I don't know if they still sell them, but I remember, if you're my age, you remember the little green plastic army men. There was like 7 poses, and sometimes they were green and sometimes they were brown, and every now and then you'd find them with blue. I remember one friend that had some that were silver, and we just thought that was so cool. Where he got them, I don't know. But, you know, I've always had those little Army men, and then I graduated into getting like the Airfix 32nd scale figures or the HO scale figures, lots of other figures. And I used to play Army. I've still got most of them. I have thousands of those little soldiers that one day I'm going to show to my grandkids when they're old enough to not eat them. Right now they're both 2, so they'd probably just eat them. But it's something I've always enjoyed doing, and so I'm actually going to be doing a video where I just I'm going to take some footage of me painting just various figures, probably some Warhammer figure. Maybe I'm thinking about taking one of the old Green Army men and priming him and trying to paint him, if I can incorporate that in, and just kind of narrate over that and just kind of do a nostalgic look at, you know, the reason I enjoy painting stuff like Warhammer is it goes back to when I was a kid and just loved playing with toy soldiers. To me, you know, I'm surprised I don't play Warhammer or something like that, because I used to just set my soldiers up, and me and my friends, we would either just, you know, say, pow, 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 you're dead, and, you know, knock them down. Or a couple of them, I had friends that we would do a simple dice-driven game where, you know, you would say, okay, this guy shoots this guy, and you didn't worry about ranges and all of that. It was just infantry versus infantry, tank versus tank. And, you know, these 2 guys shoot at these 2 guys, and so we would take a dice and we would roll it. And if it was 1 through 3, nothing happened. If it was 4 through 5, they were wounded and had to be turned over for 1 or 2 turns. And if it was 6, they died. And how we came up with that, I don't know. We just did. And, you know, so we would play those games and do stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun. But anyway, I know I'm rambling. This is one of my Led Zeppelin videos. Ramble on. But, yeah, when I saw Bossk and, you know, I looked at this sculpt, and one of the things, honestly, that appeals to me, there's no flesh tones on this thing. It's a lizard. I can paint a lizard. You know, I've done the dewback, so I'll just paint this like I did the dewback. And I feel more comfortable painting uniforms and stuff like that. So I'll be able to say, look, I'm painting a mini, but I won't actually have to paint any flesh. So that's you know, I got that going for me, which is nice. But yeah, I'm thinking that when I do the Bossk video, that this old Star Wars figure will feature into it, even if he's just kind of sitting there observing the whole thing, supervising the process, and keeping track of things. But this is, you know, 13-year-old John, 10-year-old John is still inside me and sees this and goes, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. You've got to do this. You've got to do this. This is feeding the inner child in me. And I mean, yeah, it'll be great to do a video on it. I hope to maybe possibly sell this and make a little money on it. But the inner child in me is going, I don't care about that stuff. It's Bossk. It's from Star Wars. It's a figure. He's got a grenade thing and a laser thing, and he's looking like he's fixing to throw it. And the 13-year-old in me, the kid in me, is going, yeah, you could take this just like it is and put it on your battlefield of soldiers and play with it. So it hits a lot of things for me on a lot of different levels that really get back to, this is why I model. I'm just having fun with it. And it's being able to take this and tie it to this, even though there's, you know, well over 40 years separation between the two. This is why I do it.